When you're focusing on a low-fat plant-based diet, you're taking out the fat that builds up in your cells when you have type 2 diabetes that causes that insulin
Hmm.
resistance.
Hmm.
That fat is going to come out of those cells and it's going to increase your insulin sensitivity and
Hmm.
really help you to sometimes even reverse your type 2 diabetes. So that's a really powerful thing that we've seen in research, we've seen in our clinic. So that's a really big one. And type 2 diabetes affects so many people. So we love to talk about that. Also, cardiovascular disease, the buildup of plaque along the arteries can be improved by reducing that intake of saturated fat and cholesterol. So that's a big improvement when it comes to switching over to a plant-based diet and taking away those items like, meat and dairy. And the list kind of goes on and on. A lot of these diet-related diseases that unfortunately afflict many Americans can be largely improved by eating a nourishing diet like this.
Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Marks from Go To Health. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for being with us. I know many of us are thinking about changing our diet and eating more healthily. But many people think that eating a plant-based diet means spending more money. I don't know why, but many people think that. How do I know? Well, a new national survey from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which is a health advocacy group with 17,000 physician members. This study revealed that more than 60% of US adults incorrectly believe that a plant-based diet is more expensive than one with meat and dairy. Baby boomers were the most likely to get it wrong, with 67% saying plant-based eating costs more, even though meat was the number one item that people reported spending the most money on. With us to talk about this today is Xavier Toledo. He's a registered dietitian with the Physicians Committee, and he works to connect audiences with practical, evidence-based information about plant-based eating. With undergraduate and master's degrees in nutrition science from Boston University, Xavier blends his expertise in health and nutrition with a passion for strategic communication. He previously worked at Type 2 Diabetes Revolution and Chili's on Wheels, helping communities adopt plant-based diets. We'll talk with him about why plant-based meals are often more affordable than people think and how simple grocery swaps can lead to big savings. If you want to learn more, you can go to PCRM.org. That's the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM.org. So, welcome to the show, Xavier Toledo. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. So, this is really curious. Why are there so many misconceptions around plant-based eating, especially that people think it's so much more expensive? I don't understand that. Where's this misunderstanding coming from?
That's a great question. I feel like when people think of plant-based eating, they can often think of, trendy restaurants or these niche products or designer products. And these don't have to be what you center your diet around when you eat a plant-based diet. Instead, you can focus on things like grains, legumes, all these different things, fruits, vegetables, and these are among the most affordable foods out there. So I think that's my insight as to why people might think it's so expensive when it really doesn't have to be.
Great. And grains and beans and what else would you include in a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so when you think of how to build, a nourishing plant-based diet, you want to focus on the legumes, like the beans, like we talked about, the grains, ideally whole grains, vegetables, fruits, all these foods, and then I'll focus on the plant-based proteins like tofu, tempeh, all that. And you have a really nourishing, balanced plant-based diet right there.
And what's the benefit of eating less meat? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so when you focus on a plant-based diet, you're replacing that meat with food that has a lot of fiber, that has less saturated fat, that has less cholesterol. And all of these aspects are going to help improve your health when it comes to lowering your risk for diet-related diseases like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, and all of that really adds up when it comes to improving your health right now and in the long term.
Good. And how educated do you think people really are about moving to a plant-based diet? What do we need people to understand about considering plant-based foods?
Yeah, there's so many things I'd love people to know. So I think like we're talking about today, it doesn't have to be expensive. I think that's a big misconception out there, but it can be super affordable. I think also it's important to recognize that you can focus on familiar foods. Like when people think of, oh, going vegan or going plant-based, they might think that they don't know how to eat that way. But when you really sit down and think about the foods that you're already eating, a lot of those foods tend to be plant-based. So it's
Hmm.
about focusing on those foods and increasing your intake of those. And yeah, just focusing on what you know and making swaps in dishes that you love. So, if you're focusing on, maybe sometimes I have, beef chili or beef tacos. You can replace that beef with things like beans and lentils and really make that similar and familiar dish, but with that nourishing aspect to it.
Great. Is there a way to try plant-based meals without going all in? How would you suggest people start introducing more plant-based meals?
Sure. So some people, find plant-based eating to be something that they can dive in 100% right off the bat, and that works for them. And other people like to ease into it. And in my opinion, I feel like any step toward the, eating more plant-based is a step in the right direction. So if that feels more aligned with you, if you feel less intimidated by that point of view or that approach, go for it. I think, don't let that discourage you.
Good. If people want to learn more, they can go to PCRM.org, and that stands for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I don't think a lot of people know about your committee, Xavier. Tell us about what the committee does and who it helps.
Sure, sure. So we are a nonprofit health advocacy organization comprised of 17,000 physician members and over a million plus non-physician members, all dedicated to helping to improve and save human and animal lives through, plant-based diets, which is what we're talking about today, but then also effective and ethical scientific research. So as a dietitian, I get to focus my days on talking to people like you about plant-based diets and plant-based nutrition. And yeah, we do a lot of great work in the space, and we have so many resources that people can take advantage of.
So people can go to PCRM.org. That's the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Does the committee really advocate vegetarian diets specifically? Or is it
Yeah.
just trying to encourage less meat eating for better health?
Yeah, so we love to encourage people going all in, going completely vegan. And there's so many benefits out there when it comes to that. We have so many studies highlighted on our website about how that improves overall health, but then also how that improves, specific conditions. You can go onto our website and see each health condition kind of laid out plainly and how a plant-based diet can help with that. So yeah, so many benefits to explore when it comes to this way of eating.
And I know raising meat and shipping grain all over the country to feed meat is so expensive. So can you talk a little bit about the economics of such a meat-based society?
Yeah, so if we go back to this survey, so basically we conducted a survey of US adults here in the United States, and we found that the majority of these people that were surveyed felt like eating a plant-based diet was inherently more expensive than
Hmm.
a meat-based diet or a diet that includes meat and dairy. But then when we asked them, follow-up questions about, what do you spend the most money on when it comes to your groceries? 70% said that meat was the most expensive item that they, purchased. So that's just a really clear piece of data to show that meat is oftentimes what people are, spending the most on when it comes to their grocery prices. And there are studies out there that show the same thing, but that shows just how affordable plant-based eating can be.
And give us some examples about how eating less meat can improve our health. You mentioned a little bit before, but I know diabetes. What else?
Yeah, so diabetes is a very common one. So type 2 diabetes specifically, when you're focusing on a low-fat plant-based diet, you're taking out the fat that builds up in your cells when you have type 2 diabetes that causes that insulin
Hmm.
resistance.
Hmm.
That fat is going to come out of those cells and it's going to increase your insulin sensitivity
Hmm.
and really help you to sometimes even reverse your type 2 diabetes. So that's a really powerful thing that we've seen in research, we've seen in our clinic. So that's a really big one. And type 2 diabetes affects so many people. So we love to talk about that. Also, cardiovascular disease, the buildup of plaque along the arteries can be improved by reducing that intake of saturated fat and cholesterol. So that's a big improvement when it comes to switching over to a plant-based diet and taking away those items like, meat and dairy. And the list kind of goes on and on. A lot of these diet-related diseases that unfortunately afflict many Americans can be largely improved by eating a nourishing diet like this.
Right now, well, you mentioned dairy a couple of times. Are we also recommending that people reduce the amount of dairy in their diet as well?
Yeah, so there are so many great, non-dairy alternatives out there, such as soy milk, for example. That's one of my favorite.
Hmm.
It has a similar profile, and there's so much protein in that one when you compare it to the other plant-based milk options, but you're not getting that saturated fat, and you're really just, I think, getting a better product when it comes to the nutrition package.
What question haven't I asked you? What's a message you'd like to get out to people before we end this show today?
I mean, maybe I can make a shameless plug for our social media accounts. We have so many channels across any platform you can think of, and we have so many resources to help people transition into this way of eating or learn more about the benefits of this way of eating. So, if you're new to this or you like more information, go to our social media and find those pieces of information that you can take for yourself, share with others, and really benefit from.
And tell us a little bit about your background, Xavier.
Yeah, so I am a registered dietitian, and essentially I, completed my background in nutrition science for both my bachelor's, my master's, and then I did my dietetic internship, which is a multi-month process to become a dietitian. And now I get to work in the world of nutrition and communications and focus on helping people out in the public understand the benefits of eating just a nourishing diet. So it's a dream job. I love it so, so much. And yeah, happy to be here.
Good. Well, it's been so nice to have you. And if people want to learn more again, they can go to PCRM.org. That's the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Xavier Toledo, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Good. We've been talking with Xavier Toledo. He's a registered dietitian with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and he works to connect audiences with practical, evidence-based information about plant-based eating. This has been Jonathan Marks with Go to Health. Remember, you can watch us and subscribe to us on our website at gotohealthmedia.com. You can watch us on YouTube and you can listen to us on 8 podcast networks. We thank you for your listenership and your loyalty. We'll see you again next time. And as we say at the end of every show, go to health. Take care. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in today to Go to Health. You are one of almost 10,000 people per day who enjoy the evidence-based health information offered by our guest health experts. You can watch us on our website and YouTube and listen to us on 8 podcast networks. Be sure to join Jonathan Marks in our upcoming shows each week. If you like our show, please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. You can subscribe to the show, join our email list, send us feedback, browse through the online store, and view our library of over 150 shows at gotohealthmedia.com. See you next time, and remember to elevate your life with Go to Health.